so at this part, what I want to do is that I have a code written in Express.js, which is written for running REST APIs, and the APIs are talking to a database, reading and writing to a database. What I want to do at this point is that I want to deploy this server on Google Cloud AppEngine. And I want to get benefit from the platform that it provides for running Node.js application and run my code there instead of me creating the whole machine, the virtual machine from scratch. And the code that I will be using, I'm going to the code is available in the GitHub page I have. If you want to run your own code, you can set it up, make it ready, put it in your GitHub page, and then you can do the same thing with your own code as well. So let's get started. I'm going to go to Google Cloud and Google App Engine. So I'm going to select, let's see, do I have AppEngine in the list, pinned in the list? Yeah, I've pinned it here, so I'll find it here. For you, it might be down in the list that you want to find. After I select AppEngine, I want to, well, make sure that you're in the correct project, wherever you want to deploy your server, create an application. The application I want to build, I will keep the region to be as default, whatever it is. Create the application, and the here I can select the language that my code is, and the reason for that is that AppEngine wants to provide a proper platform for you. I'm going to select Node.js, and there are other options that you may select, and with this it's going to basically install the requirements for Node application as well. I'm going to select environment to be standard, and let's just let this get created, and you can install Cloud SDK, and what it will do is that it will let you to run Google commands from your command line on your system, but I wanna for now skip this step. I'll use the online Cloud Shell to write my commands. So when you open your Cloud Shell, well, it gives you basically command line that you can type your commands, or that's why I didn't use that Cloud SQL to have it on my local system. Which is to make it faster. I actually have that SDK on my system, but I wanted to take this route to use it here. So one of the things you want to make sure that is happening is that when you enter here, you want to make sure that your project ID is set correctly. If it is, you will see the name of project in a different color. But it seems that for mine, for whatever reason, it's not selected. So what I'm going to do is I need to select the project ID. If you don't know what's the project ID, what is the ID of your project, you can open your project list and see the ID from there. That's one way of doing it. Or I believe gcloud has also a command, projects list, if I remember correctly, and it should give you the list of the project with their ID. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the one I want to use. The one I want to use is demo project. Demo project here is, yeah, this is the ID that I have, so I'm going to use that. And yeah, that's done. So it shows me the project ID in different colors, so I can make sure that the project it now knows which project I'm working on. So the next step, yeah, let's see, what do I have here. So I have already created this REST API example from before, but what I'm going to do now is that for the sake of this demo, I'm going to delete that and recreate again, just to give you an idea of how to build from scratch. So let me just delete that. So when you come to your environment and you take ls to list all the files, you probably wouldn't see much there if it is the first time you're running it. So then the next step for me is that I want to clone this code from my repository. So, and by the way, Git is already should be installed in your Cloud Shell, so you should be able to git clone. Now clone it, and then here now I have this project created. After the project is created, what I want to do is I want to go inside that project, and there are some files there, but one of the missing files here, and just to do ls-al to see all the files. So there are a bunch of files there, but one of the missing one is the .env file, which will be the configuration file that will be the configuration file of my database for the code to talk to the database. So that's the one that I want to create. I can create that, and now I need to open it and write the content. And the content for that, I have provided a environment variable template, which tells you what variables you need to include in that file. So I need to go back to my file there. You know what? I'll copy these all and modify them inside my file. Okay, so what I want to do here, and let me just make it a bit, it doesn't make much of a difference, it goes to the last line again. Anyhow, let's just change that. I don't know, does it have Vim installed here? Let's try. Yep, okay, it has. So I'll put those files, the environment variables that I want to have, I'll put them there. It seems that the first name didn't get copied correctly. I need to fix that. The first one should be that db_host, but I copied it partially. So I'll just remove these descriptions. These are all configurations for the database. So I need to write db_host with capital O. Okay, so everything is set up there. So what I want to do next is that enter the values there. My database is running currently on AppEngine, and I need to find the IP address of that. I'll go and find it later. Let me fill the ones that I know. The port is 3306. I have set up my root user, and the name of my database is my database, and my password is, well, I set demo pass for my user. So that's all. The only missing part is the IP address of my host. So what I'll do is that, just to check it, I want to open AppEngine and see which IP my database server is running on. Okay, finally. Okay, so we have this IP address there. That's what I need to set here. Okay, when I have all my information entered in my env file, what I'll do is that I'll just save and close this. And now the code is there, the database configuration is there. All I want to do is that I want to start this application. In order to tell to the AppEngine that it needs, I want to deploy that code, I'm going to use the command gcloud app, so Google Cloud AppEngine. I want this to deploy my application, and make sure that when you're running this command, you're inside that file that you have created, that Git folder that includes all your file, and that YAML file includes inside that. So gcloud app deploy finish. You can just let it just run and do its work. When it's finished, we will get the URL, and then we'll connect to the services that we deployed. So as I said, it will take a couple of minutes here. Well, okay, great. So it seems that it's done. So when similar to the command that we use for gcloud app deploy, I can use app browse, and if you forget that, you can it has also given you a hint as well. I can do that, and then I'll get the URL. That's the base URL that I can use in my browser to call one of my get endpoints. So it tells me that it's running after this. So I had that endpoint of EMP, a get endpoint. I'm able to call it. I can filter it. I had a parameterized query. Let's search for Max there. Name Max. It should only return that for me. I also had the search by ID, so I can do that. First user. And in order to know what endpoints you have, well, if you're the developer of the code, you basically know what endpoints you have defined. But after you finish it, you usually for the end these APIs, it's very important to document them, especially if usually APIs are provided by one entity and another entity may use it, and for that purpose, this documentation is very important. So I mean, those endpoints usually should be documented somewhere. I mean, for this project, I documented them here in a table in the same project. Well, this base URL should be the URL that I got from Git that's gcloud app browse, basically that base URL without those endpoints. So this is my base URL, and what it tells me that, well, that's the base URL, and then the endpoints should connect to the end of this URL. And it tells me that, well, I can, if you concat API EMP at the end of it, it will give you a list of all employees. If you call the same endpoint with a parameter of name, and an example is given in the form of question mark name equal to the value. The value doesn't need to be in quotation mark though. It will search for employees by name. It also tells me that there is an endpoint that you can put after EMP. You can put slash and pass specific ID, and then that will be it will search by specific ID. That was basically the last one that we called. And it also tells me that there is an endpoint, API-EMP, similar to this get endpoint, but this is a post endpoint. And for that one, I can pass name, email, phone, and address, and add a new employee. So if I want to call that, I can use Postman and post to send a post request. To this endpoint. It requires a body. I'm going to define a JSON body for it, and it needs name, phone, okay, address, let's say email, some email address, some phone number, and some name. And if I send it using post verb, it should add new user, and I can just verify it by calling again my get endpoint and seeing that now a new user is added to my service. Now at this point, I confirm that my REST endpoints are running correctly on AppEngine, and they're up there. At this point, my job of deploying and running my REST services are done. If you want to develop a client application to use these endpoints, that can be a separate project, and that project could be written even in a different language than what this backend is written, because this front end and backend, they're communicating over HTTP, which is a protocol that any of these languages, the languages we're using are supporting. So your front end, back end could be in totally different languages. They can still communicate over REST endpoints. So we're done at this point. We deployed and tested and made sure that everything is working. So that's all for this part.